Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the webinar. In this educational webinar, HRlogics will explore the latest Kwong versus U.S. court ruling and the potential refund opportunities assessed from paid pandemic era penalties and interest paid. Let's take a minute to review a few housekeeping rules. You are all muted. However, if you look at your Zoom bar, you should see a Q&A button. We'll get to all the questions at the end of the call. However, I don't want you to wait to put your questions in the chat. The sooner you input them, the better chances they will be asked on the call today. All webinars are hosted in the HRlogics News and Resources section on our website. You can scan the QR code on the current slide, and that will take you directly there. Additionally, you will find educational blog posts on hrlogics.com/blog, or simply scan the QR code on the right to bring you directly into all the recent articles posted. Make sure you also follow HRlogics on LinkedIn so you'll be in the know as soon as a new article is posted or about future events just like this one. So let's take a minute to introduce our speakers before we get into the presentation. Brian, I'll hand it off to you first. Who are you? How long have you been doing tax recovery? And what do you hope
Too
attendees
long.
will take away from the presentation today?
Sure. Thanks, Biz. Good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brian Ray. I'm a CPA and Director of Tax Recovery and Resolution for HRlogics. My work background includes extensive experience with federal and state tax credit processing and recovery, IRS issue resolution, and payroll tax compliance and project services.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Well, as for me, I'm Elizabeth Williams, also known as Biz. I am the Chief Revenue Officer at HRlogics and co-founder of Rise Credits, which gives you access to over 3,000 state and federal tax incentives, and your host for today's session. So for those that are new or unfamiliar with HRlogics, let me take a minute to introduce you. At HRlogics, we simplify the time-sensitive tasks that drain HR and payroll teams, like managing unemployment claims, completing I-9s, handling employment and wage verifications, and securing tax credits. We bring the tools, the expertise, and strategic insight to save companies time, reduce risk, and uncover real savings, often in places they didn't even know to look. With our powerful tech and industry-leading experts, we don't just manage compliance, we monetize it. So let's start with our first poll question. I'm going to go ahead and launch this on the screen, but do you know any business or individual that paid IRS penalties or interest from 2020 to 2023? If you guys could just answer yes or no there, that would be great. Looks like it's 100% yes so far.
Hmm.
One no, that's okay. It's always good to learn because there are people that you may know that we're impacted as well. So thank you for being here from a learning perspective. All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll. We are at 60-40, so 60 yes, 40 no. We'll go ahead and end that poll. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it back to Brian to explain what the Kwong ruling is and the details on the IRS refund opportunity.
Sure. Thanks again, Biz, and thank you all again for being with us. Biz and I want to share with you all the details and findings of what many in the tax community are calling a landmark federal court ruling. This case is called Kwong versus the United States from the U.S. Court of Federal Claims from November of 2025. A few summary points from this Kwong case. During the COVID pandemic, the IRS declared a nationwide disaster that legally extended IRS filing and payment deadlines. During this time, as you can imagine, automated IRS systems continued to assess late filing and late payment penalties. Additional interest was also charged. And during this time, taxpayers, both business and individual, paid these assessed IRS amounts. This Kwong case states that all IRS payment and filing due dates for 2019 through 2022 should have been extended until July 10th, 2023. This is the date of the end of the COVID emergency on May 10th, 2023, plus 60 days. There are two binding relevant federal rulings related to this opportunity. First, U.S. Tax Court case Abdo versus Commissioner from 2024 ruled that IRS penalties during the COVID disaster were improper under Internal Revenue Code Section 7508A. And again, Kwong versus United States from the U.S. Court of Federal Claims in 2025, the IRS must, this court ruling states that the IRS must refund both penalties and interest paid from the disaster period.
Yeah, so basically, what that means, these are not opinions or loopholes. These are actual binding court rulings.
The issue from Kwong versus the United States: does IRS law mandate an automatic extension of tax deadlines during a federally declared disaster? The court ruling: yes. The court held that the 2019 version, of an existing IRS statute mandated a suspension of deadlines for the entire duration of the COVID-19 disaster plus 60 days. Something we'll mention here and throughout our talk, we want to emphasize that please note that this is an emerging position, and the IRS is expected to appeal this ruling. Current taxpayer action that we will be discussing will preserve a taxpayer's refund claim while Kwong litigation is finalized, whenever that may be. Let's talk a few specifics related to dates and tax periods. The Kwong window. First, January 20th, 2020. This is the start date, the early incident date in the COVID-19 declaration. The end date, July 10th, 2023, 60 days after the official end of the disaster on May 11th, 2023. The result: any deadline for filing a return or paying a tax that fell within this window was automatically, any due date was automatically postponed to July 10th, 2023. Again, the end of the COVID emergency plus 60 days. Impact to taxpayers, both business and individual. If a taxpayer was penalized for a late action for tax years 2019 through 2022, they potentially weren't actually late. The deadline had not arrived yet. Quick comment: please note that assessed but unpaid penalty and interest amounts during this window also qualify. These amounts may not have been owed. Here's some numbers that matter based on our resources and research. You can see that the IRS has already paid out over $1.2 billion in funds related to this situation. You can see that we've noted the average individual refund amount for both business and individual taxpayers. We are dealing with two binding favorable tax rulings to taxpayers, and again, we're dealing with a filing deadline of July 10th, 2026.
And I'll just step in on this
Yes,
too. So these are averages. So what we've seen personally is we've seen anything from less than $1, which probably wouldn't
sure.
be you know, well, or something that you would actually go after, wouldn't be fruitful for your time. But we've also seen well over $100,000 in penalties that were assessed. So these are just averages, not guarantees. If you did not pay a penalty or interest, then we're not going to be able to get you more than what you actually were assessed or paid. So if you didn't actually pay, you paid everything on time, did everything on time, this would not be applicable to you. But if you did pay or were assessed fees and interest, then we are talking to you specifically.
A few more additional comments. The Kwong ruling claims that the IRS may have overcharged millions during COVID. Federal law was ignored. During the COVID national disaster, federal law required the IRS to suspend and extend deadlines. The IRS did not do that. They did not comply. It kept charging penalties and interest, and our two federal court rulings have ruled this to be illegal. Biz is going to talk about our process at HRlogics in detail, but we want to share that HRlogics files the official claim to potentially recover what taxpayers are owed in any incorrectly paid penalty and interest. This claim will be filed by July 10th, 2026.
So basically, this was a software automation issue. So nothing was changed within the IRS software to update to say that penalties and interest were not owed. So that's why they were kept on being billed. And of course, you as a business owner or an individual, when you get something from the IRS, you think, oh, I
Yeah,
can't fight that. So you went ahead and paid it, or you intend to pay it. So nothing truly malicious, I will say, but it's just automation that got us at fault here. So let's go to the next poll question. So I'll go ahead and press launch on my screen. But do you know what IRS penalties related interest qualify for this credit? So another just simple yes or no. So far we're at 100% no. And that's good for all of you because we're going to explain exactly what qualifies. So even if you do answer yes, which I've only seen 14% so far, 86% no, and it might be where we get, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't know what actually qualifies, we're actually going to get into that here. So we'll end that poll and go on to the next page.
sure. So as Biz stated, we'll talk about what types of penalty that we are looking at now. The potential recovery amounts are broader than you think. For any taxpayer charged during the periods of 2019 through 2022 for the following charges: late filing of corporate and individual tax returns, related late payment penalties, interest on these penalties, which is a separate charge, failure to deposit penalties for business relating primarily to Forms 941 and Forms 940, and also the ones that we just spoke about may be a little bit more apparent, but also relates to civil penalties that may have been charged by the IRS. And these amounts are generally, quite high. These civil penalties relate to the late filing of information returns by businesses. Forms W-2, Forms 1099, and ACA Forms 1094 and 1095. So please kind of keep those amounts in mind. And again, you can see we've pointed out the average refunds and range of refunds based on our experience to this date for both businesses and individuals. And as Biz stated, these amounts can vary very largely, very largely. What is the best current protective action for a taxpayer, and what can we expect from the IRS? Again, as we've stated, the IRS is expected to appeal. If, as a taxpayer, you wait for a final appellate decision related to any such appeal, you very well may miss the statute of limitations for this refund and this opportunity. Claims related to the Kwong ruling must be filed by July 10th, 2023, 3 years from the court-recognized deadline from the Kwong case. Protective action for taxpayers. File Form 843, claim for refund and request for abatement. This filed Form 843 preserves the taxpayer's claim while any potential Kwong litigation is finalized. So let's just go through an example, rather straightforward. Let's say a taxpayer, excuse me, had a tax bill of $50,000 due on April 15th, 2020. Due to the pandemic and related issues, taxpayer didn't pay this bill until July 1st, 2023. normal standard IRS treatment that seemed to take place during this time. In addition to the $50,000 bill, you would have a failure to pay penalty, late penalty of approximately $9,000. You would also have a related underpayment interest penalty of the same approximately $9,000 resulting in a total bill paid of $68,000. Under the Kwong decision, and what the Kwong decision said should have happened, you would have zero failure to pay penalty. The deadline had been moved to July 10th, 2023. You would also have zero related interest. The interest would not have accrued during this COVID period. So your total bill paid would represent only the tax of the $50,000, resulting in a potential refund opportunity based on what we are speaking to you about of $18,000. HRlogics submits Form 8043 protective action. In terms of what happens at that point, in terms of IRS review and processing, we are projecting that this IRS review and processing may take 3 to 6 months, but this timeline may vary substantially based on overall IRS volume and the complexity of a specific claim. After the IRS does review and process a taxpayer's Form 843, the IRS will send a refund directly to the taxpayer.
So important to note, we are not getting rid of your tax liability. We do have other tax credits for businesses on the line that want to look at ways to lower their income tax liability. But for this specific refund, this is just about those that paid penalties and interest during that specific time period that should not have been assessed.
And please, let Biz and I share just a gentle dose of reality if we may. Please understand again, this is a very promising opportunity. However, the refund for paid penalty in these cases is not yet guaranteed. The IRS will likely appeal this decision. And once again, based on our overall experience with the IRS, we expect that IRS review and processing and the eventual sending of refunds to taxpayers may take 3 to 6 months, but this timeline may very well vary.
All right, so this has been our most popular question so far. What happens next? So we have both partners, businesses, and individuals logged on today. So the process could look slightly different per each, but all relatively the same. So partners and CPAs, you all will receive a referral link that is specific to you. This allows you to get a dashboard, see where your clients are in the process, and see who has qualified or not qualified out of your own businesses that you support. So you'll share this link out with any clients that you feel were assessed a penalty between July 10th, 2020 through July 10th, 2023. If you are unsure if they were assessed a penalty, we were just saying go ahead and log in because eligibility checks are free. So it doesn't hurt to send it out to anyone and everyone. A business or individual can go directly to our link if not referred by a partner, and this link will be displayed in a few short questions to determine eligibility. So for those who may be eligible, you will need to verify your identity by providing your ID, your social security number, address, and basic contact information. From there, we will send to the IRS, who will authorize us to view past penalties and interest assessed to you. Generally, the IRS responds within 7 to 10 days. Sometimes, like we saw quite a few come through the referral link this morning, and those were qualified same day. But generally, the timeline is about 7 to 10 days for us to hear back from the IRS. Our tool will calculate exactly what is owed back to you. So you will receive full visibility into the results by year and penalty type. So from there, we'll generate the proper documentation for you to sign, and the IRS will process the claim and issue a refund, and we will collect the contingency fee only after your refund is accepted. So there's zero risk to you guys. There's zero money up front. It is completely free to check eligibility. And if you are denied, you owe nothing. So we only charge a contingency fee if the refund is approved by the IRS. CPAs and partners will earn a contingency fee on revenue received for every successful referral. So two court rulings, I know we've said this several times, but I always believe that repetition helps things stick a bit more. So there were two court rulings that make this legally binding. So there are no loopholes to go through. The IRS has already refunded $1.2 billion, which covers both penalties and interest. The most important thing, though, is the IRS is not going to send you a check automatically. So if you did pay these and you don't submit for a refund, then you can guarantee you're not going to get one because the IRS is not going to willingly refund you that money. So we've said this a lot throughout here, but the deadline is July 10th. If you don't file, you again can guarantee you won't be refunded. With zero cost, unless you get the money back in 5 minutes of time with basic info, you honestly have nothing to lose. So there's always objections, right? So what are the common ones that we receive? 1.2 billion has already been refunded. So although it sounds good, it's also true. We are not here to trap you into paying fees for money you did not see. If you don't get funded, we collect nothing. So there is a chance the IRS will appeal the court rulings, but if you don't file by July 10th, none of that will matter. So you must file now to lock in. So we don't need old transcripts. I know that was something else that is a popular question. Do you have to go back through, look for your old tax records, see if you were assessed anything? The answer is no. We will pull them directly from the IRS with your authorization. So that is a part of the sign up process. We will get you to electronically sign a form that allows us to view those transcripts on your behalf. We only receive view only permission. And we are SOC 2 compliant, so information is encrypted and fully IRS compliant. So you'll hear Brian and I say this throughout. I think I've already said it probably 10 times in the last 5 minutes.
At least.
And oh, sorry, what, Brian?
At least. It
At
was me,
least,
not
yeah.
you.
But don't wait, right? I know we're probably all procrastinators at heart. I know I am. Sometimes I wait because I just say I'll do it tomorrow or something else comes up. But July 10th will be here before we know it, and it only takes a few minutes and has no risk to you. So we've seen penalty amounts again as low as $500 and upwards of 100,000, but averages typically range between 2,300 for individuals to 27,000 for businesses. So that's rates. Individuals and businesses could be eligible. So anyone that is a taxpayer, again, you personally, a business you know, family member, friends, if you think or know that they paid a penalty between July 10th, 2020 and July 10th, 2023, they could be eligible. So make sure to get the word out to your friends and family. HRlogics partners, this is a value add to your clients, and you have zero work to do to assist with. So the system will guide you through everything for your clients on your behalf. So CPAs and partners, if you have not already connected with us to set up an account, please complete this form. So again, just scan that QR code on the screen. You'll see I love QR codes. I think it's so much easier than actually having to manually type in all of the various web addresses. So QR code fanatic over here. But make sure that you scan that, include your name, email, and what you prefer your referral link to be. So most people will just do their first name, last name, but if you are a business, then you can put that in as well. I can also customize it for you as well if you don't want to scan the link and you just want to reach out directly. Again, this will give you a dashboard that's easy for you to monitor. So you will get instantly notified by email if one of your clients signs up, and you can see where they are in the process directly on that dashboard. For individuals or businesses, you can scan this QR code that will take you directly into the webpage with the eligibility and form and where it lives. So you'll verify your information. You'll electronically sign authorization for us to review those transcripts and file on your behalf. You'll receive your refund and pay your contingency fee. Then again, signing up and authorizing are required by July 10th. I'll leave that up on the screen for just a couple of seconds, and I'm going to go into our next poll. So, would you like to speak with an HRlogics representative on partnering or checking your eligibility as an individual. So yes as a partner or yes as an individual. 100% as a partner so far, so that's great. Love that CPAs and partners are looking out for their clients. It's amazing to see. And we'll just go on to the next page while I leave that poll up. So again, for the 20th time on this call, you must act now. You only have until the 10th of July, not the 10th of May. I don't want to worry anybody there. Just putting those QR codes back on the screen while we also get to our Q&A. So we did receive a few questions before this call. Thank you for those who reached out to me on LinkedIn and by email to submit those questions. But as I get to those, please don't hesitate to add additional questions into the Q&A or chat that you would like us to highlight the answer to now. So you can also scan the QR codes if you like to chat further with an HRlogics rep or check your eligibility directly without having to speak with us too. You know, some people like to chat and some people like to just do things on their own. So we're here for you for either. So Brian, what about IRS penalties that are charged but unpaid during the applicable window? Should we
Yeah.
proceed with a refund claim?
Great question. And yes, you should. It's the same issue because if these penalties were charged or assessed during the COVID period, during the Kwong window, they may not have actually been owed. The filings may not have been due yet. So if the penalties are assessed but unpaid, you should still pursue this opportunity. Instead of pursuing a refund, you would pursue what the IRS calls an abatement, and that happens on the same Form 843 filing.
Perfect. We got one in the chat, so thank you for putting that one in there. What is the contingency fee the client will be charged by HRlogics? And that is 25% of the amount that is refunded back. So again, if you don't get a refund back, then you owe nothing to us. How long will it take the IRS to respond after a claim is submitted?
Um, the instructions to the 843 form say 3 to 6 months, as we pointed out. I think we're probably all aware on this call that the IRS has been in somewhat of a backlog over the last several years, so we do expect that timeline to vary. But please know, as part of our service, if we file the claim, we will be responsible or we will do everything that we can to monitor the status of the refund and when it will go out. And we certainly keep our the taxpayers updated of any developments.
Alrighty, this is the last one that I see. And then we'll get on to the next page here. But again, if you have any questions, make sure to put those in there. We have plenty of time as I've only seen one additional question in here. So how do we sign up for the analysis of potential IRS refunds from the Kwong ruling? So actually, funny enough, this was one of the questions we received beforehand. So this is your eligibility. So if you are on as an individual, you can just scan this middle QR code here, and that will take you directly into the eligibility form, where you can check to see if you are eligible or not. Again, you will need to provide additional documentation, like verifying your identity to get on to the next steps. But the eligibility form is here, and then it'll take you directly through the process to see whether or not you do qualify. And then signing up as a partner is this QR code right here. I don't see any additional questions, so that does conclude our Q&A portion of the webinar today. But you can catch all of our upcoming webinars located directly on our LinkedIn or on our HRlogics.com website under the News and Resources section. Our next Ask Me Anything series will be on May 21st at 3 p.m. And we will be bringing Melissa Prentice, president of HRlogics I-9. This one will cover everything. So compliance complexities and audit readiness to onboarding workflows, remote verification, and evolving regulatory requirements. But the thing is, there's no slides. So audience is actually the ones that are going to be responsible for asking us questions and discussing what topics that we highlight that day. And no topics are off limits. So you won't want to miss that event. So definitely scan that QR code to register. But with that, our webinar will conclude. Please scan this QR code to complete a brief survey. So by doing that, we can ensure we're bringing topics that are important to you to the forefront. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And if we didn't answer your question and that something pops up afterwards, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will be here for everything you need to know. Have a good day, everyone.